Hello everyone, and welcome back to the Astral Tourist. Back in September, I shared how I was carefully planning an astral ident for Jupiter. The ident being a luxury steampunk submarine called Jovian Lux. I even made a song about it, and I imagined it as suspended just above the planet Storms. It was meant to be an elegant way in, a controlled descent, a signal of respect and readiness. I thought it would be clever to try and communicate with Jupiter or, Jovian beings, etc., by reflecting Jupiter's grandeur. After all, it is a gas giant, right? It's a giant. But Jupiter, it turns out, had very little interest in my beautifully furnished submarine portal entry point idea. Instead of a submarine visual, I got back all these months later a phone call. Yep, finally, after all these months. So this experience happened when I wasn't trying very hard at all to astral project. I'd made only a light intention, just asking myself to remember anything important or meaningful if it arose in a dream or astral projection. I've been focusing more on my health, getting good rest. And then almost immediately after falling asleep, I had an autonomous astral projection. It felt like my astral body phased straight into Jupiter's upper atmosphere. There was like a really short blackout phase, and then I was just directly there. No transition sequence, no travel corridor, no portal, no Jovian Lux. I was just there, just arrival. So I found myself suspended there in the upper atmosphere, not where I had been visualizing even, over that red spot. It was, it was in the stormy clouds and a bit left and diagonally north of that red spot. The atmosphere was layered in pale pinks, various ivories, and what looked like drifting yellow dust. Like I knew it was going by really fast, but it didn't look like it. It looked like slow motion, but I could feel like the energy of it was really fast. So in the astral, I guess it was kind of slowed down for me, or just was slowed down in the astral in general, not especially for me. So some of it was faintly sparkling, but not really bright. Like I could tell it was representing dust. It was stormy, but didn't feel hostile. I was feeling like the vibrance of being in a stormy living sky. And there, quite improbably, was a lone structure floating in the clouds, a glass and metal telephone box. Minimalist and utilitarian, vaguely reminiscent of a sci-fi police box. But it was simpler, it was heavier, more industrial. And inside it was a massive, white, old-fashioned telephone. Only it was really big, it was a giant one. And it was ringing loudly, shaking the air around me and the box with vibrations. I should mention that I don't usually hear very well in the astral. Most of my communication comes through feeling, emotion, intuition, clairvoyance, direct knowing, or telepathy rather than sound. But this ringing vibrated through everything. I could totally hear it. And I was in a bit of shock from actually being there so instantaneously as well. And I answered that phone while I was still in shock. I didn't want to let the moment go or try to stabilize more or push my luck or anything. I just picked up that phone. So the moment I lifted the receiver, all I heard was radio-type static and sounds. They were layered, textured, shifting in pitch and rhythm. There was a lot going on. There were all kinds of various noises and signals. At the time, it felt a little abstract, like how could I possibly ever sort this all out? I don't speak this language. But I could hear it. I could totally hear it, which was fantastic. And later, after waking up, I looked it up, and of course, I probably should have known this, but Jupiter is one of the loudest radio emitters in the whole solar system. Now, I had like knowledge that it had radio signals. A lot of planets do, or maybe all of them do. I'm not a super scientist, but I didn't realize the extent of it. And its magnetic field produces constant radio waves. It's a supergiant planet-sized broadcasting system, like all the time, for radio waves. And I didn't know the extent of that, is all. So that realization reframed the experience completely. This wasn't just like a voice in a human sense. It's basically Jupiter's native language. So I wasn't listening to words in particular or even ideas. I was more tuning into the planet's heartbeat and just native frequencies. It's like when you first hear a different language for the first time and you're like, oh, and you've got to figure it out a little bit, or at least try. And, of course, I had woken up. My astral body, by the way, was fully recharged from all those storm energies, too. Like, it was all tingly and everything. So the next astral projection happened the same night and seems unrelated, but there's a kicker coming here. The timing felt meaningful, and here is why. So that first one happened earlier in the evening. Then this is another one that's following up. So I found myself in one of the familiar mall world environments, specifically an aquarium center or a rescue center where unusual astral wildlife is often housed and, let to rest and heal. I was admiring some strange serpent or lizard-like beings in some of the aquariums more towards the bottom of the floor that only had partly water in them, which is perfect for like little lizards and things. And I was enjoying the novelty of them and like noticing how comfortable also that my body felt. Like I was like, oh yeah, I'm in the astral again. No more back pain. And then the entire place started to shake really hard, and it shifted my floating form forwards. It became so rough that as it did that, my instincts kind of kicked in automatically. I flattened myself more towards the ground, even though I was still kind of floating. I was like all horizontal. I covered my head and let the motions and the vibrations pass through me. Something I learned from real earthquakes right here on Earth. And, also during strong vibrational phases for the astral. Sometimes I used to get real shakers, and I still do every great once in a while. And I've learned you got to let it pass, or just say exit and make commands to go right during it. So I wasn't sure at the time in that moment why that was going on right in there, or if it was the whole place doing it and I was just, happened to be there. And the shaking didn't last too long, but it was intense enough that when it stopped, someone up behind the front counter asked how I knew exactly what to do. Like, how did you just ride that one out, And I told him I've been through earthquakes on Earth and vibrational shifts in the astral before. And only afterwards, when I woke up, did it occur to me that Jupiter's gravity, pressure, and just the sheer energetic scale of it, even in the astral, might have left some energetic aftershocks, in my own astral body. Now, again, I'm not sure if the whole place was just having its own little earthquake there, but it seems kind of like weird timing, right? And when you encounter something that massive, maybe you don't always come away from it empty-handed. Like, I had all that extra energy going on. I knew that. But in that case, it felt like the whole place was shaking, not just me. And the guy behind the desk noticed too. So I don't know, maybe I brought some extra energy to the locale. Maybe it was there anyway. But I wanted to include it just in case there was a connection. Sometimes we're participants and conductors, and other times we just don't know, right? So anyway, the next experience of the same evening, I had woken up and then I'd gone back to bed, and I wasn't even trying anymore. This was another autonomous astral projection. I already had counted the whole night as a huge win. But I was at this beachside conference center. It was calm, spacious, grand, a bit fancy. There were gauzy curtains moving in a gentle breeze. Loungers were lined up along the beach area outside. There were no stars in the sky, which I remember making a mental note of. But I understood I was asleep. I didn't know if I was dreaming or astral projecting because I was only kind of semi-lucid at that point. So it could have been a mix of both. It had elements of both. I mean, the place felt astral, but there were, the gauzy curtains and things. My mind likes that stuff, so maybe we'll call it a blend. And while I was inside the conference building chatting about future plans of some type, suddenly there was loud ringing. Not external this time. It was in both ears, so loud. And remembering the phone from earlier, I quickly excused myself. I was like, oh man, I gotta get this. I walked out onto the beach and tried to answer the call the only way I could figure out to, by placing my hands over both of my ears for focus and saying hello. There was a little bit of static in my left ear, which quickly faded out, and in my right ear, a male-sounding voice spoke, all calm and curious, asking about the present I had brought. So this takes us back to September again, where I talked about preparing a mental offering for Jupiter, something earthy that it wouldn't already have. I'd used the metaphor of maple syrup, maple leaves, and images of a maple tree. So a gift from Earth, basically, a special gift from Earth. And one that I'm very familiar with since I live in an area that has a lot of maple trees. So while the being on the line didn't describe the gift as a tree, leaf, food, or syrup, he called it a prehistoric present, and he had some questions about it. He described it as a prehistoric, dense rock flecked with meteorite material, heavy, ancient, and compressed. And I got a little bit of a visual. It kind of almost looked like amber, like an amber resin filled with all kinds of stuff in there, including some of the broken up leaves and things. And he seemed most fascinated by its solidity and prehistoric components. Kept using that word, prehistoric, prehistoric, prehistoric. He was very excited about the prehistoric qualities here. And he even asked quite seriously whether it contained real dinosaur bones. So at the time, I answered using what I can only call a mix of dream logic and logic, trying to explain that yes, in a way it did contain actual prehistoric life, memory embedded in matter. I explained it through Earth's processes of decomposition, recycling, and transformation, how ancient life becomes part of the soil that feeds, the living trees and their leaves, which was the original intention of what the present was going to be. Only later did I realize what he was really asking about is Earth's memories, I think, where if Earth remembers the same way he does. So this is some type of a being, a Jovian being. And so I just did my best to explain the present, the offering that I gave to Jupiter in the best way that I could. So I'm thinking about it from Jupiter's perspective. Earth must be quite baffling. I mean, Jupiter is motion, pressure, expansion, clouds without a floor. Earth is small, more fixed, dense, layered, and, heavy with primal history. Not that Jupiter isn't primal, it is, just in a completely different way, So to a Jovian intelligence, our planet isn't advanced or primitive. It's prehistoric and feels ancient, at least to this being. And when he asked about dinosaur bones, he wasn't being literal, I don't think. That's just the way that my brain translated it. He was asking about lineage, planetary memory, and history. And, that's when it clicked. And I was like, wow, that's a great question. He continued asking more about the internal components of the present and possible dissection of it. So I told him it's possible, but if he were to break it apart and dissect it, the beauty of it as it would be lost. It would, become the individual components, and it couldn't necessarily be put back together in the same way. So, it would become different or something might be lost from that. So he decided to leave it as it was. I don't know if he will change his mind and pick it apart. I don't know. I mean, it's really up to him, right? So in September, I thought Jupiter or Jovian beings might respond best to a luxury submarine, a grand submarine to navigate the storms. But Jupiter didn't want a vehicle at all. This being just wanted an interesting conversation. It wanted to know what it feels like to be solid and to carry memory in matter, to be small, dense, and impossibly heavy like Earth. So if there's one takeaway from this journey so far, it's this. Sometimes the most elaborate astral projections are gently set aside and replaced with a giant ringing phone somewhere inside Jupiter's storms. I hope I represented Earth well. I did my best. Until next time, keep your ears open. You never know who's trying to call. Happy astral travels.